But yesterday, all day long, before anything happened, I started getting so many calls on my phone that I had to turn it off. I'm serious, between 75, 100 calls and everybody wanting the same thing. So I called my friend Joe Benavides and I said, can I borrow your courtroom? Because there's no way I can respond to everybody. Absolutely no way. So if I get everybody together, I'll answer all your questions at the same time. I borrowed a page from the trial 30 years ago. This is what we did every day. We would try the case at 4:30. The judge would recess. We would go outside and talk to everybody at the same time instead of trying to answer everybody's questions. No way I can answer everybody's questions. And of course, everybody wants the same thing. They want to talk to me by myself. They don't want anybody. That would take me a week to talk to everybody. So I decided to do this with the understanding, look, I don't have anything to say, anything to announce or anything. I will answer your questions. I will do so in English first, and then I will talk in Spanish with the limited Spanish that I have, with the understanding that, una disculpa, no hablo el español como lo hablan ustedes, lo hablo como lo hablan aquí. Me crié aquí en Corpus, okay? Okay, so now we can start.
Did you find out?
Huh?
How and when did you find out?
Yesterday, like y'all did, I got a text saying that the parole board had denied the request for parole. So it really wasn't a surprise to me. I was expecting something like this because I don't know if you've been watching. I have been interviewed in the past couple of months by a bunch of people who come in and individually interview me, and I tell them the same thing. Look, if the parole board does their work the way they're supposed to, and if the system functions the way it's supposed to, she should get denied. She should not get released. So when the word came down yesterday that, and I got it in the text that she had been denied, I was not really surprised. I said, the system is still functioning. When we tried the case 30 years ago, I was hoping that the system functioned the way it's supposed to. And I was part of the system, so I was doing everything I could. And in the end, justice was served. We had justice that resulted. You will remember, I don't know if anybody else will remember, everybody else is young, a lot younger, but Andy, you will remember that we started trying the case on the heels of the O.J. Simpson case. And after the O.J. Simpson case, which ended on a Wednesday, the following Monday morning, we start picking a jury in Houston. The following Monday, after the O.J. Simpson case, there was a big uproar in the whole country that the criminal justice system was broken. It's not working. So back then, that was part of my task, was to show people that the system still works the way it's supposed to. Back then it worked. I think yesterday it worked. I think the judicial system, the criminal justice system worked the way it's supposed to, and I think yesterday is an example.
So you found out through text through the parole and pardons?
No. From media. From media. I get one of those things where it beeps and there's that they announce it on the media, an alert, and it says that they had denied her the parole, and I thought, I was not surprised.
What do you think would constitute, I don't know the official term that they use for denying her parole, what would constitute that as somebody?
I don't understand the question.
The reason they gave.
The rationale behind the denial? I haven't read the actual denial. I just read an excerpt from media. But what I understood is they denied it because of the seriousness of the offense and because of the facts of the offense. I doubt that that's the only thing they took into consideration. If the system works the way it's supposed to, they will look at every single thing, including the trial transcript. And I think if you look at the trial transcript, just based on the trial transcript, she should not be released, just based on that. But they also probably take into consideration all the interviews that she has done, that Ms. Saldivar has done in the past 30 years. And if you judge that also and take it into consideration, she should not be released. The criminal justice system has many aims. It doesn't just punish people. When somebody's sentenced to life in prison, and that's the sentence in this case, life in prison, it's not just to punish them for what they've done. It's also to try to rehabilitate them. It's also to try to make them understand the seriousness of the offense. It's also to try to prevent this from happening again, something like this from happening again. And it's also to protect the public and protect the victims of the case and protect other people. In this case, if you look at everything she has said for the last 30 years, you understand that you still have to protect the public. You still have to protect the victims. You still have to make sure that there's some rehabilitation. And if you talk to her today, if I would talk to her today, she has not changed at all in 30 years. Not at all. She's still saying the same things. So based on all this, I'm sure all this was taken into consideration. Based on all this, I think that's what the rationale for the decision was. Yes, sir.
Do you ever know of a time that she showed remorse, that she actually said, I'm sorry, this, that, and the other, and the fact that if she hasn't shown the remorse and apologized, that that's a reason that she didn't get out and may never get out until she does?
That's one of the reasons. One of the things that is considered is she has been found guilty of killing Selena. Let that sink in. She killed a human being. Most people think, well, she killed her, so what? No, she killed a human being. She has to understand that. And to understand that, you have to accept the fact that you have done something terribly wrong. She has to accept that and show some kind of remorse for what she's done, not just for the victim's family, which is number one, but also for the community. She has harmed the community, and that's part of the indictment against the peace and dignity of the state, the community itself. So I have not seen any of that at all. In all the interviews that I've watched, that I listened to very carefully to what she's saying, she still insists that she's not responsible, that it was an accident. Now lately she's been saying that she's a political prisoner and that Selena caused this by her aggressiveness toward her. So all that indicates she has not changed at all. There has been no rehabilitation. There has been nothing like that. So based on this, I thought if they take all this into consideration, they should not grant it. They should not grant parole. Yes, sir.
Carlos, did you have any say in the parole hearing impact statement?
Not at all. And that's why I've been trying to tell people, look, I'm not involved in this. I will be involved if they contact me and ask for my input. Of course I'll have some input. But no, the one who should be involved is sitting upstairs on the second floor. That's where the real story is. The district attorney, the sitting district attorney, what was his part? Did he take part? If he didn't, why not? That to me, if I was in your position, that's what I would be looking for, is to see the sitting actual district attorney. I'm not a public official anymore. I'm in private practice. When I was a public official, I took my job as a public official very, very seriously, and especially the public part. The public is entitled. They have to know what we're doing, why we're doing it, so I took that very seriously. Now I'm in private practice, so actually all this should go somewhere else and go ask questions of people. The parole board, why did they do this? Of the district attorney, why or why not were they involved? And things like that.
For you, being the lead prosecutor in the case that led to Yolanda's conviction, for you to stand here today and see that, you led to that conviction, but also now she is still behind bars, at least for the next 5 years until she's up for parole again. But to see that process and her still in prison, are you satisfied with that determination that was made?
I am, first of all, I'm not surprised by it. Secondly, I am glad that the justice system, the judicial system, the criminal justice system seems to be working the way it's supposed to. It's not a perfect system, not by a long shot. There's many things that happen that shouldn't happen. It is as perfect as the human beings that run it, which means it's very imperfect. But in this case, I think it's still functioning, and I think it's still functioning from this standpoint. It's still protecting the public, and in this case, protecting the victim's family. I've always thought that there's still a risk for the victim's family, for Selena's family, the Quintanillas. I thought there was a risk, and if they were to grant parole, in my opinion, from what I've seen, I think there would have been a risk. So I think it worked properly, and I'm glad it's still working.
It's coming up 30 years from when the shooting took place.
Sunday?
And, yeah, and you know, a sad time for everybody, for her fans, for the family. Anything that you want to say as that date comes? You know.
It's still a sad date for me. It's a sad memory for me. Anytime I hear Selena's music, it still makes me extremely sad to hear the music and to understand and to think she's gone. She's gone for no reason. And it's sad that we have to have an anniversary like this, but I think on the other hand, it's good that we have something like this that happened yesterday, that the system still works. When we tried the case, she was sentenced to life in prison. She wasn't sentenced to 30 years. She was sentenced to life, to spend the rest of her life in jail. And there was a provision in the law that says when you're sentenced to life in prison for first-degree murder, which is what she got, you are eligible for parole after you serve 30 calendar years. She will have completed 30 calendar years behind bars Sunday, day after tomorrow. She will have been in behind bars for 30 calendar years, so she was eligible. This process started several months ago. It's not a parole hearing like people say. This parole, I mean, I got several phone calls from people, texts and stuff. Are you going to participate in the hearing on Sunday? I have no idea what you're talking. There's no hearing. It's a parole process that starts several months before they're eligible, and they collect evidence. They collect evidence during that process, and then they render a decision. And that's what happened yesterday. They rendered a decision. So it's still saddening, but in a way, I'm glad to see that it's still working. It's still working the way it's supposed to, and I'm hoping it continues to work. Yes.
With Yolanda being in her 60s, I believe, and eligible for parole in 5 more years, is it?
That's what she's eligible to apply again in 5 more years.
5 more years. In your opinion, what's the probability of her getting out of prison alive?
Preston, I don't know what's going to happen after I finish. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, so I have no idea. You'd have to look at the actuary tables of the insurance companies and try to determine what her lifespan's going to be. I can tell you this: it's probably difficult spending your life in prison. But the sentence is for life. It's for life. That's really what justice is. The jury, 12 people, said we want her sentenced to life in prison. They didn't say for 30 years. They said life in prison. Real justice is not that difficult. Justice is like beauty. It's always in the eye of the beholder. It's always. It's like beauty. But simply, for simple people like me, I don't know very much. I just know what I've studied and things like that. But justice sometimes means that Yolanda Saldivar can go back to her family on the same day that Selena Quintanilla can go back to her family. That is true justice. When Selena can walk back into the warmth of her family, then Yolanda can go and be free with her family. When that happens, if it never happens, then she should stay where she is.
Carlos, do you think, knowing the legal system like you do, there was any consideration of, the minute we say we've granted her parole and she can walk out the gates, that she's a sitting target?
Oh yeah, I don't know if they considered that, but that's one of the things that I would be thinking about. Look, where she's been sitting there or being there for 30 years. Nothing's ever happened to her. She's fine. She's still alive. I've seen at least twice in my career as district attorney where a person is in jail or in prison and it's fine. As soon as they're released, within 2 days, they're dead. So I think it would be dangerous for her to be released. I think the safest place in this whole planet for Yolanda Saldivar is where she is right now. So I think for her own good, it's probably better that she stay where she is.
What would have to change for her to possibly have the potential to get out?
I've seen it happen before when somebody snaps after they've been sentenced to a long prison sentence, 10, 20 years. They're in prison for a little while and then they snap and figure out, there's only one single person who's responsible for me being here. When she figures that out, when she understands, and it's not the police officer's fault, it's not the prosecutor's fault, it's not Mr. Quintanilla's fault, it's not the Quintanilla family, it's not anybody else's fault. When she figures that out and she starts working on that, I think that's when things change. I don't think, or at least I haven't seen any indication or any evidence of that. Anything else from the English-speaking press? Ahora en español va a estar más difícil. Primero, empiezo con una disculpa. Yo no hablo el español como ustedes, así que no tengo el vocabulario. Cuando me preguntaron, la primera vez que estuve en el juicio, me preguntó alguien de South America, de América Sur, me preguntó que si este era ¿qué era? Que si lo consideraba una challenge, ¿un qué? Un reto. No reto, con la D, ¿Un desafío? Un desafío. Me preguntó, ¿usted considera esto un desafío? Le dije, pues para decirle la verdad no sé. Y dice, ¿por qué no sabe? Porque no sé qué es un desafío. Dígame qué es un desafío. Dijo, un challenge. Oh, es un desafío muy grande, sí. Así es que, una disculpa, vamos a batallar un poco, por favor, cuando hacen su editing, por favor. Ok, muy bien. Ok, comenzamos.
Bueno, su sentir cuando escuchó la decisión de la Junta de Indultos y Libertad Condicional de Texas sobre la libertad, que le negaron la libertad condicional a Yolanda Saldivar.
Mi primera reacción era, no estuve sorprendido, no fue sorpresa para mí. Siempre he dicho yo que si el sistema judicial trabaja, funciona como debe funcionar, y si los miembros de la mesa directiva que hicieron la decisión, si ellos hacen su trabajo bien, si lo hacen bien, y el sistema funciona, no la deben dejar salir, porque por la razón, toda la evidencia, todas las pruebas que se han presentado, todo el testimonio durante el juicio, todo eso trabaja en contra. Y todo también lo que ha dicho Yolanda Saldivar, lo que ha dicho ella también es en su contra. Si ella algún punto en su vida reconoce que hay solamente una persona en todo el mundo, hay una persona que es culpable y responsable por ella estar donde está ahorita, si ella aprende eso y entiende eso, yo creo que su vida inmediatamente cambia por mejor. Si lo acepta ella, la culpabilidad, y empieza a trabajar en mejorar su vida, yo creo que quizás en 5 años cambian las cosas. Yo no veo eso, porque en 30 años no he visto el cambio, no se ha visto nada.
Para presentar el proceso en sí, para peticionar o solicitar lo que es la libertad condicional, es un proceso bastante largo, donde ambas partes, tanto de lo que es la familia de la víctima como de la persona, tiene que presentar lo que es solicitar, lo que es como digamos presentar una carta en nombre de la familia de las víctimas y eso. ¿A usted le llegaron a solicitar algo en nombre de la familia Quintanilla?
A mí nunca me pidieron nada, pero todo eso se toma en cuenta. Están recaudando testimonios, documentos, todo lo necesario para hacer su decisión. Inclusive todo el testimonio durante el juicio, todo eso, que son muchas páginas de testimonio, todo eso tienen que estudiarlo para ver qué dijeron los testigos. Y en este caso, para mí, lo que contaron los testigos bajo juramento, lo que contaron los testigos es muy importante en este caso. por la razón que la defensa era que fue accidente. Y los testigos, todos testificaron lo que ocurrió inmediatamente después del disparo, después del disparo, porque el disparo nomás lo vio una persona, nomás una persona, Yolanda Saldivar. Ni Selena lo vio, porque Selena le dio la espalda y le dieron por atrás. Entonces, una persona, solamente Yolanda Saldivar, y ella dice que fue accidente. Pero los testigos inmediatamente después del disparo, todos los testigos que testificaron, el testimonio de ellos muy importante, porque indica que no fue accidente, este fue intencional. Y el testimonio que quiso disparar de nuevo, pero no tuvo tiempo, eso es muy importante. Todo eso se toma en consideración, pero yo esperaba alguna comunicación del Departamento de Parole, pero se me hace que con toda esta información no es necesario que me preguntaran a mí nada, ya sabían todo. Así es que no recibí nada, no participé, pero con mucho gusto, si me hubieran llamado, con mucho gusto les hubiera dicho lo que sé yo, lo que he visto yo, lo que viví yo en el juicio.
¿Alguna vez ha hablado usted con Yolanda Saldivar?
¿Cómo?
¿Alguna vez ha hablado usted con ella desde que ha estado tras rejas?
Ni lo mande Dios. No. No se permite durante el juicio, es el único tiempo que estuve así con ella frente a frente. Durante el juicio no se permite hablar con la acusada. Hablamos con sus abogados, pero la he escuchado en las entrevistas que ha dado con diferentes medios, y para mí no ha cambiado ni un poquitito que acepte la responsabilidad y que diga, sí, yo fui culpable, fue culpa mía, yo entiendo que fue culpa mía y quiero cambiar esa cosa. Lo que me causó hacer eso, lo quiero cambiar. Nada de eso. Cuando eso ocurre, y yo lo he visto donde alguien regresa a la corte y dice, ya entendí, es culpa mía, quiero aceptar mi penitencia, mi castigo, lo merezco el castigo y voy a aceptarlo, pero voy a cambiar, de aquí en adelante voy a cambiar. Y sí cambia la gente, y esa es una de las cosas que quiere hacer el sistema, cambiar la gente. Y he dicho antes, después de 30 años, lo que hemos concentrado hoy, el tema ya no es de castigo. Después de 30 años ya la castigaron. Ya no es de castigo, ahora es de rehabilitación, de que acepte lo que hizo, de proteger a las víctimas, proteger a todos los que estaban envueltos en el juicio, inclusive a mí también, porque fue culpa mía que está encerrada, no fue culpa de ella, fue culpa mía. Okay, yes ma'am. Oye, primero, antes que pregunte, ¿me entienden todo lo que estoy hablando español? Sí, sí, ok.
Bueno, mi primera pregunta es, ya que la libertad condicional de Yolanda fue negada en esta oportunidad, usted mencionaba que en 5 años ella puede volver a aplicar.
Así es.
Pero si no se la aceptan en 5 años, ¿hay otra posibilidad más adelante?
Sí.
¿O ya?
No, sigue teniendo la oportunidad, y todo depende del departamento de parole. Ellos van a decidir si ven algún cambio, si ven algo que sí está cambiando, de veras, que está cambiando, sí, seguro que le dan oportunidad. Todo depende en ella misma. No creo que entienda ya que es cosa de ella, no es cosa de nadie más, pero sí tiene oportunidad de aplicar.
¿Y cómo se puede asegurar que casos como estos de alto perfil no sean influenciados quizás por la opinión pública? No se puede
garantizar algo así, por la razón que este fue el caso inmediatamente después de O.J. Simpson. Ustedes no estaban, todavía ni nacían. En 1995 hubo 3 casos fuertes, grandes, muy publicados, que fue O.J. Simpson, Susan Smith y Yolanda Saldivar. Esos 3 fueron. Y empezó un modo de cubrir los juicios como lo hacen hoy, que y me di cuenta rápidamente me di cuenta, cuando estaba juzgando el caso, cuando estaba hablando con el jurado, no solamente estaba hablando con el jurado, sino que estaba hablando con todo el mundo. Así es que no hay ningún modo de que se puede garantizar que no haya publicidad o que ustedes tienen derecho de escuchar todo, de entrar al juicio y de publicarlo a todo el mundo. Así es que no se puede garantizar que no haya publicidad que afecte el juicio. Cuando escogemos al jurado, le hacemos preguntas para ver si hay alguna indicación que tienen algún prejuicio basado en lo que han leído, en lo que han visto, y los tratamos de sacar, pero a veces se pasan unos que ya tienen, no prejuicios, sino que ya decidieron qué van a hacer. En este caso no hubo nada de indicación de algo así. No creo yo que hubo alguien que ya había decidido. Así es que, y todo esto después en la apelación, todo esto se busca y se estudia y se investiga. Y la Corte de Apelación también estaba de acuerdo que no hubo prejuicio, no hubo algún problema con el jurado seleccionado.
Dos preguntitas para acá para terminar.
Órale.
La primera, escuché cuando decía en inglés que a quien hay que preguntarles al fiscal actual sobre si algún... si algún movimiento, alguna razón sobre eso. Quiero saber un poquito más de ese ámbito. O sea, ¿qué pudiera el fiscal, qué pudiera el fiscal de repente decir al actual o hacer en este proceso? Porque decía un poco que el proceso ya es de por sí de una junta, ¿no?
Cuando yo era fiscal, quizás cambiaron las cosas. Yo fui fiscal aquí por 17 años. Cuando yo era fiscal, que tuviéramos un caso como este, y estaba a punto de salir alguien o de ser dado libertad condicional, parole, y estaba a punto de eso, yo hiciera todo lo posible para asegurar, especialmente si era alguien que yo consideraba peligroso a la comunidad, yo hiciera todo lo posible para asegurar que no lo vayan a soltar porque es peligroso para las personas que yo debo de proteger. Así es, de ese punto es lo que estoy viendo yo, que las noticias, las nuevas, es no lo que ocurrió hace 30 años, que es lo que hice yo, lo que está ocurriendo ahorita, que es alguien más que está encargado, gracias a Dios.
¿Y qué le diría usted a la familia de Selena en este momento?
No he hablado con ellos, pero quizás voy a hablar con ellos y decirles que probablemente ellos sí estaban involucrados en esto, porque a ellos sí, porque son la familia de la víctima, sí les piden input, que digan algo, y les voy a decir lo que hicieron, lo hicieron bien, porque tuvieron éxito en lo que querían. Y no creo que ellos quieren castigar a alguien, no creo. Ellos sí probablemente se quieren proteger, y por eso. Y yo también es la misma cosa. Para mí el castigo, ya la castigaron, pero ahora hay que proteger la comunidad.
Y por último, dijo en inglés algo interesante que me llamó la atención, que dijo que cuando Selena pueda regresar a la vida es cuando Yolanda pueda salir de la cárcel.
Ese en mi modo de pensar, muy simple, es un modo de pensar. La justicia, ¿qué es la justicia? Todos te dicen algo diferente, porque la justicia es como la belleza, es igual. Todos te dicen, sí hubo justicia, no hubo justicia, pero para mí, con mi simple modo de pensar, la justicia es esto. Yolanda Saldivar quiere salir, quiere ir con su familia, estar con su familia de nuevo. Bueno, cuando Selena llegue con su familia y está de nuevo con su familia, entonces en ese mismo día que llegue Selena y ya están todos juntos, ese mismo día Yolanda tiene derecho de estar con su familia. Ahí se hace la justicia, esa es la justicia real, esa es la justicia que viene de muy alto, no viene de nosotros los hombres. Pero la justicia es cuando Selena regrese a su familia y esté ahí cantando, entonces Yolanda sale y está con su familia y todo está bien. Órale. ¿Algo más? Thank you very much. And mira, a todos, una disculpa. I'm sorry that I couldn't return. Apagué mi teléfono porque no. Estoy en private practice, me pagan por hacer mi trabajo y estaba haciendo mi trabajo y tengo more than 100 calls and people wanting to go to, querían ir al hearing on Sunday. El Sunday, the only thing, el Sunday es cuando cumple 30 años. El domingo cumple 30 años. El 31 de marzo fue el día que la arrestaron. Ese fue el día de los hechos. Ese es el lunes. La arrestaron el 31, el 30 cumple 30 años. El 30 de marzo cumple 30 años. En ese día es cuando le toca oportunidad de aplicar.
Sorry, I had one or two more questions.
Oh, okay, let me switch to English.
If you don't mind, thank you. When you look at the case, and I've seen, your past interviews, but looking at, what Yolanda's family has said in interviews as well, they have different claims of what happened, and I think you made a good point that when you look at the case, you're trying to find out who murdered her. We know that she did.
No question.
The motive still, in question.
No, I've written a book. In the book, I lay out exactly why I think, based on the evidence. I don't write based on what I think. It's based on the evidence why she killed her. She had reasons to kill her. She was embezzling money from her, and they had found out about it, and they were going to prosecute her, and she was going to have to leave Selena's employ. So her whole life was going down the tubes. Her whole life that was very good for her, it was all going down the tubes. So when that happened, and when Selena takes off the ring, she just said, no more, this is not going to happen. So she shot her and killed her. And underneath all that is the greed, is the money. So yeah, there were reasons for it. There were reasons, and there's no question that Yolanda Saldivar gave us a statement saying that she shot her. So there's no question she shot her.
I know the family has kind of fought against that, but in some of the claims that they've made, there's no evidence, to support what they're saying.
If there was evidence, that would have been presented in court. If very simple, Yolanda would have testified in court under oath. She couldn't, because every single thing that she said, we could disprove. It was easily disprovable. If she had taken the stand under oath, she'd probably be still under oath, and we would still be interrogating her, cross-examining her 30 years later, because we had so much material to show that she was just not telling the truth. She's better at it than our president. Don't edit that out.
Tengo una pregunta.
Mande, otra. Ahorita déjame cambiar de nuevo.
No, es corta. ¿Ella siempre ha dicho lo mismo, el mismo statement en cada oportunidad?
No.
¿O ella
Siempre cambia, es algo diferente cada rato. Primero era que abrió la puerta y luego que la cerró y luego que bajó el arma y que disparó y a las últimas dos dice que es prisionera política, que cree que es prisionera política, que la única razón que la tienen encerrada es por política. Y la semana pasada salió que se estaba defendiendo por la agresión de Selena en su contra, se tenía que defender. Todo eso es en contra de lo que ha dicho por 30 años. Ha dicho tantas diferentes historias. Todo lo que tienes que hacer es coleccionar las diferentes entrevistas y ves cómo cambia la historia. Yo creo que esto de defensa, digo yo no sé, esta es opinión. Esto de defensa que se está defendiendo en contra de Selena por su agresión, yo creo que eso viene de California, del caso de Menéndez. Creían que el caso de Menéndez iba a funcionar esa defensa de que se estaban defendiendo en contra de su padre y lo tuvieron que matar, y a la mamá también. Y parecía que iban a recibir un nuevo juicio, parecía. Así es que ahora salió que se está defendiendo. No hay nada de eso. No hay.
¿Usted cree que ya no hay nada que hacer en este caso? Obviamente, pues ella tiene el derecho de volver en 5 años, pero ya usted cree que ya queda...
Ya quedó todo atrás. Ahora la única pregunta es que si va a cambiar su vida por lo bien.
Carlos, stepping back a bit, just out of curiosity, where were you the day that you found out Selena was shot?
Oh,
Can you explain that day?
I never.
And how the news hit you?
Never been asked that before. I was coming in, if you remember, the shooting was right at lunchtime. I was coming in from lunch, and it was a good lunch because I had gotten somebody else to pay for my lunch. So anytime somebody else pays, it's a good lunch. And I was enjoying myself and having a good time walking into the courthouse. And as I walked in, it was about 1:15. As I walked in, a deputy sheriff runs up to me. I don't know if you remember Joan Bythe. You remember Joan Bythe? She was a deputy sheriff. She ran up to me. Have you heard what happened? Have you heard what happened? I said, no. So I pulled her off to the side because there was a lot of people. What's going on, Joan? And she said, Selena was shot. You know Selena? And I said, yeah, the singer. She's been shot. So how is she? Oh, she's still alive. They got her at the hospital. So I ran upstairs to my office, and I tried calling the police department to see what was going on. I couldn't get a hold of anybody. Nobody. I started with the chief and worked my way down to assistant chief, to commanders, to nobody. Everybody was over at the scene, if you remember, for 9.5 hours. And I started slowly piecing the story together. And at 9:30 that night, she held police at bay, remember, with the gun to her head. At 9:30, 9.5 hours after it started, I came home from a speaking engagement I had. And I told my wife, has any new development? She said, I don't know. So I turned on the TV, and one of you stations had it on live. I don't want to say which one, but one of you had it on live. And I was watching, and she gets out of the truck, and she gets immediately put in handcuffs. And I turned to my wife right then, and I said, now my job starts. Now we have a prosecution. And I had no idea what we were in for. There was a Friday night. Saturday and Sunday, if you'll remember, over 100,000 people lined up to pay their last respects. They had to move the body from the funeral home to the convention center because of the number of people. There was a line of people, blocks and blocks and blocks. I told my wife, this is something we have never seen in Corpus Christi. And man, was I right. Oh my Lord. Oh my. Now when I see those high profile cases, I remember how difficult it is. And when I start talking about the cases, like right now, I start sweating because and then I got to remind myself, it's over, it's done. I don't have anything else to say. So thank you all very much. Thank you, and thank you for understanding. Okay?
Carlos, when we titled you, how do we title you? I know you're in private practice.
Former district attorney?
Okay, just want to know.
Former district attorney, it's fine. Former county attorney, former district attorney, former city attorney, former judge, I've been everything in this county.
What you had mentioned to her in Spanish, can you say it in English about, I know Yolanda has claimed recently self-defense and still says it was an accident, but you were talking about some of that.
Well, for many years, Ms. Saldivar has claimed that it was an accident. Lately, I think last week there was a report that she was protecting herself against Selena's aggressiveness. And that runs counter to everything she said. I mean, completely different. When you're defending yourself, you have to admit you shot him, and it was an intentional act to try to defend yourself. So now it's an intentional act. It's not an accident anymore. And it's my opinion that she picked this up from the Menendez case. In the Menendez trial, they were using the self-defense as they were defending themselves against their father. So, and it looked for a little while that they were going to get a new trial. So why not try it here and see what happens? But no.
Thank you.
Thank you.